Hi everyone, naimbag nga aldaw yu amin kakailian. This is Sheila Dr. Hernandez, your licensed immigration advisor based in Timaru, New Zealand. So for today, 13th of January 2021, we have two topics. First is visa applications in New Zealand. So sino-sino yung pwedeng mag-apply for a visa at sino yung hindi. So ano yung mga visas ang suspended. And then a second topic is travel to New Zealand or entry to New Zealand. So who are allowed to enter New Zealand, who are exempt, and who can apply for exemption or request for travel to NZ. Before we start, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, first, in regards to visa application, so meron sinuspend ang Immigration New Zealand. And that is yung temporary visa applications. Meron tayong dalawang category. We have the temporary visa and the resident visa. Hindi affected ang resident visa, continuous ang application. Ang suspended ay temporary visa for overseas applicants. Ibig sabihin, yung mga nasa loob ng New Zealand or nandito sa New Zealand, hindi sila affected, so they can still apply for visas. Okay? So may mga exempted sa suspension. First, yung mga relationship visas for partners and dependent children of New Zealand citizens and residents. Relationship-based visas meaning partnership and dependent children, okay, ng New Zealand citizens and residents. Pwede pa rin mag-apply. Okay? And then, visas for diplomatic, consular, and official staff and accompanying dependents. And Antarctic Traveler Visitor Visa and Antarctic Work Visas. And the Recognized Seasonal Employer RSE Limited Visas. Ito yung mga exempted sa suspension. And in August 2020, they have suspended for 3 months yung application. Okay? So, meaning, August, September, October, November, suspended. And then in October 2020, okay, nag-release sila ng update na extended yung suspension until Feb 2021. And this will be reviewed every month. And then ang pinaka-latest natin was yung announcement in December 2020 na extended ang suspension ng overseas applications until May 2021. So, yun yung pinaka-latest natin. So, walang visa application for offshore applicants or overseas applicants until May 2021. So, at the moment, yung mga nasa labas ng bansa ay hindi pa po pwedeng mag-apply ng visa. Okay? So, until May 2021 unless mag-release ng bagong update ang immigration. Or you have requested for travel to New Zealand and it was approved by immigration. So, to request for travel, you need to fill out yung online application form. If your reason to enter or to travel to New Zealand falls under the list of critical purposes ng immigration, then it will be approved at saka pa lang kayo pwedeng mag-apply, okay, ng visa. So for critical purposes, kahit close ang border, you can still apply for a visa and enter New Zealand. But you need to follow yung additional process, which is to request for travel. Okay, now we go to the second topic, travel to NZ. So, sino-sino ang pwedeng mag-travel to NZ, mag-enter ng New Zealand? Ito yung mga New Zealand citizens and residents, Australian citizens normally resident in New Zealand, and others with critical purpose approved by Immigration New Zealand. Let's discuss further yung critical purpose, okay? So, sino-sino ba ang pwedeng mag-apply at ano-ano ba ang critical purposes? Okay, so let's go to the immigration website. Meron silang listahan, okay? Kung sino-sino yung pwedeng mag-enter ng New Zealand while close ang border. Okay, pwede kang pumasok if Immigration New Zealand approves, if they consider na you have a critical purpose to travel. So, ano-ano ba yung listahan? Okay, so ano-ano ba yung mga critical purpose or reasons to travel sa New Zealand? Okay, first, ito yung mga Australian citizens or permanent residents who are partners of New Zealand citizens or residents. Partners meaning you need to have evidence that you are in a relationship with a New Zealand citizen or resident. Okay? So, meron din silang listahan kung ano-ano yung kailangan nilang documents. And then, pwedeng i-include ang mga dependent children if meron ding evidence to prove yung relationship. And we also have partners from visa waiver countries. So, meron din silang listahan ng mga visa waiver countries. Ang Philippines ay hindi kasama sa visa waiver. Visa waiver meaning, ito yung mga countries na hindi na kailangan ng visa pag pumasok sila ng New Zealand. Again, partner meaning you need to prove that you are in a relationship. Okay, so na-discuss na natin yung mga partners and dependent children ng New Zealand citizens or residents. So, meron din tayong mga family members. Family meaning partners and dependent children ng New Zealand citizens and residents who do not hold relationship-based visas. Meaning, hindi sila they do not hold partnership visa or dependent child. Ito yung mga walang evidence to prove na at least nagsama sila ng partners nila for at least 3 months. In a genuine and stable relationship for at least 3 months. And then, partners and dependent children of New Zealand work or student visa holders. Okay, so yung mga work visa holders and student visa holders who are eligible to support a partnership and dependent children ay pwede ding mag-apply ng travel to enter New Zealand. But meron silang additional na requirements. Ito yung mga meron ng hawak na, ibig sabihin, meron ng approved work, student, or visit visa, and normally live in New Zealand. So, dati na silang nakatira sa New Zealand. And yung partner nila ay currently nasa New Zealand. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, separated yung family. So, dati na silang nakatira sa New Zealand as a family. Maaring nag-travel yung partner or children overseas and then inabutan ng closure ng border. They can now, so pwede silang mag-apply ng exemption. So, yung process is, kailangan nyo munang mag-apply for request to travel. Pag in-approve nila, then saka kayo pwedeng mag-apply for a visa. Okay, so meron silang specific criteria kung sino-sino yung normally resident sa New Zealand. Okay, next, meron din tayong mga normally resident work visa holders. So, ito yung mga work visa holders na dati nang nasa New Zealand, lumabas sila, maaaring nasa Pilipinas sila ngayon at inabot ng closed border. So, hindi na sila naka-travel to NZ. So, they may be eligible for exemption. Okay, so, meron silang specific dates, okay? Hindi pwede, kung hindi ka pasok within these dates, hindi ka rin eligible to request for travel. So, between 1st of December 2019 and 9th of October 2020. So, yung mga lumabas ng bansa na within these dates and may additional pa rin criteria. Okay, so, ito yung mga visas na eligible to request for entry, or travel. We have the essential skills work visa, pero hindi kasamang low skilled, mid-skilled, higher skilled, or at or above the median wage. Okay? And then, entrepreneur work visa and mga work to resident visa. Okay, so meron pa ring additional, dapat, you must be currently employed. So, ibig sabihin, meron ka pa ring employer. Okay? Meron pang employer, so yung employer ninyo willing to support pa rin yung application nyo. So, you are welcome to continue or work sa dati mong job. If na-redundant ka, if kasama ka sa mga na-redundant during COVID, unfortunately, hindi ka na eligible. Even if yung employer is able to rehire you. Kahit yung employer is willing to support you. Okay, sa mga nag-resign na at na-redundant, hindi na po sila kasama sa mga pwedeng mag-apply. Okay, living in New Zealand. Okay, may additional pa ring requirements. So, dapat yung mga work visa holders must have lived in New Zealand for more than 2 years before leaving, or between 1 to 2 years. And dapat yung visa ninyo, okay, ay valid. And if nag-expire yung visa ninyo, kailangan nakapag-apply kayo for further visa before 10th of August, before nila sinuspend, before na-suspend yung visa application. Okay? Pwedeng isama ang partners and dependent children. Next one, critical health workers. Ito yung mga allowed din mag-enter or pwedeng mag-apply for exception. Sino-sino yung mga critical workers? We have the critical health and disability workers. So, meron tayong listahan dito. Hindi ko na isa-isahin. Okay? So, mostly yung mga nagtatrabaho sa mga hospitals, sa mga clinics. Okay? Workers delivering mental health and addiction services, aged care. So, kasama yung mga caregivers natin dito. And then, meron ding exemption for travel to and from Pacific Islands. So, hindi ko na yan i-discuss in details. And meron din tayong humanitarian reasons on. However, yung humanitarian reasons, mataas yung threshold nito, normally related to health, yung kailangan mong pumunta dahil may health issues, conditions ang family na nasa New Zealand. And then, meron din tayong entry for PhD and postgraduate students. Okay? So, ito yung mga may hawak na student visa. Ibig sabihin na kapag apply sila at na-approve ang kanilang visa before 10th of August 2020, before nila in-stop or sinuspend ang overseas applications. Okay, so meron silang inopen na 250 international PhD and postgraduate students. Okay, so kung isa ka doon, may hawak ka na visa, hindi ka nakapag-travel sa New Zealand, you need to contact yung schools ninyo. And for other critical workers, kailangan ang mag-apply ay, kung hindi ka kasama sa mga listahan previously discussed, you need to yung employer nang mag-a-apply for your exception. Okay, so how to make a request to travel. Hindi ko na i-discuss in details, but you can find this sa Immigration New Zealand. And I will also leave a link sa description ng video na to. Okay? At the moment, yun yung mga eligible to apply for exception or travel to New Zealand. Today, 14th of January 2021, may na-receive tayong email from Immigration. Ito ay good news for international students. So, from April 2021, about 1,000 priority returning degree and postgraduate international students and families will be able to return to New Zealand to continue their studies. Okay, ang ibig sabihin nito, mga dati ng estudyante, international students ng New Zealand, meron na silang hawak na student visas. Kaya lang before nag-lockdown or nag-close ang borders, ay lumabas sila overseas. Now, they are stranded. So, ngayon, around 1,000 sa kanila ay pwede nang bumalik. And, hindi lahat ng students, ang priority sa ngayon ay degree and postgraduate international students and their families. Okay, the Ministry of Education will determine criteria for distributing the cohort. Places will not be restricted to universities. The student can also return to their studies at institutes of technologies and polytechnics or private training establishment. Ang Ministry of Education ang mag-determine kung paano madidistribute yung 1,000 na returning students. Eligible students will have already completed some of their study in New Zealand but were unable to return to New Zealand due to border restrictions. So, as mentioned, no? So, dapat nakapag-start na sila ng studies nila sa New Zealand. So, yun yung mga na-approve ng or may hawak kayo na student visa but they haven't started, hindi pa sila nakapag-start as student sa New Zealand, hindi sila kasama. Okay? Ito ay for returning. Ibig sabihin, dati nang nandito sa New Zealand na hindi lang nakabalik. International students entering New Zealand under this exception are required to apply for and be granted a new student visa in line with immigration requirements. Successful applicants will be required to complete standard manage isolation and quarantine. They will need to book their space through the allocation system and are reliable for the standard charges for managed isolation. Okay? This means na they will need to apply for a new student visa. Kahit may existing na sila na valid visa, kailangan nilang mag-apply. Okay, ulit. And they will need to meet yung immigration requirement. So, dadaan din sila sa standard isolation and quarantine. Okay? So, sa ngayon, fully booked na hanggang March. So, yung 1,000 probably hindi rin makaka-travel sa New Zealand lahat by April. Kasi limited lang ang space due to employment pressures as a result of COVID-19 and increased living costs. Eligible students will need to prove that they have 20,000 per annum to support for the duration of their visa, as well as the additional funds to pay for the managed isolation and quarantine. So, since kailangan nila mag-apply ng panibagong visa, kailangan din nilang ipakita that they have available funds, which is dati 15,000. So, ngayon, they will need to prove na meron silang 20,000 na funds for their living maintenance. And meron din silang pambayad para sa isolation and quarantine, which is about 3,000. Partners and dependent children of nominated students may be included in the application in line with the current visa requirements. So, pwedeng isama yung family nila as long as they meet yung current visa requirements. The government has previously approved a border exception for up to 250 PhD and postgraduate international students. So, this is additional, okay, so from the 250 na previously nirelease ng immigration. So, that's it for today. Thank you for watching.